We are live.
Boom.
Boom. How you doing?
Good.
All right. So we are live broadcasting this to YouTube. Going to be recording this as a podcast as well. So yeah, first ever live stream. Imagine that. Wanted to get, our feet under us a little bit doing this. Going to be doing it tomorrow night for draft night on April the 23rd, recording this on April the 22nd, just so everyone knows. But,
yeah, we are ready to roll. We're excited. It is Christmas Eve for adult men that enjoy.
That was an interesting way you put it there. Adult men.
Yeah.
Adult men can't have Christmas Eve?
Adult men don't enjoy Christmas Eve like they enjoy. Adult men don't enjoy Christmas like they enjoy the NFL draft.
Why is that?
Because you don't get better gifts than like football in April. That's why.
Speak for yourself. How do you know I didn't get a better gift?
Because I know. Because you don't write articles and do mock Christmas wish lists.
How do you know that?
Because I know that you don't. I've spent
in this era with burner accounts and okay, let's start the show.
Hey, this is Power Card, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
That's pretty incredible. In fact, it's marvelous. Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Thursday, April 23rd.
Draft day.
Yeah, okay, so this is kind of a weird one. So it's Thursday, April 23rd on the podcast episode. We're also live streaming this to YouTube. So on the live stream, it's April 22nd. So a little bit of a weird one here, but it is officially draft day.
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel. You beat me to the punch.
Boom. Johnny football, baby. He's back in action. Who knows? Percy Harvin came back today. Alden Smith came back. All these potheads are popping back up out of nowhere now that the CBA has done away with the marijuana test. So truly, Percy Harvin, weed is bigger than football for him. But it's draft day and the day before draft, technically for us right now, and we're pumped. I can't wait. We've been going at it for months and months and months. The amount of time I've spent and we've spent and everyone at Baltimore Beatdown and all the other folks of the Ravens community and NFL community have spent into this draft has been insane due to the COVID-19 situation, and going to give us a nice little weekend, a nice little 3-day weekend full of jam-packed action and tons of analysis and fun stuff to go on and go through.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I can't remember a draft day that felt like this specifically because of everything that's going on. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, and people have been cooped up. It feels like more content has been pumped out because of it, so there's silver linings from it. Feels very active, and the whole narratives of this class that have dominated have obviously been Tua and his hip storyline and the deep wide receiver class, and what do you do with Isaiah Simmons and some of that stuff. But overall, people have gotten pretty deep into the tape and trying to deep dive into some smaller school guys that kind of got screwed over from this situation and the lack of pro days and regional scouting activity and all that good stuff. So it's been a fun draft season, and it's culminating today. I can't wait.
Deep into the tape, deep into the takes. I feel like this has been without any, let's say, pro days, without any of the, typical stuff that we have. It feels like the takes have been flowing pretty wildly and pretty, freely. And I enjoy that about this offseason. It's not normal. It's not something that I necessarily want to see again, but all the fluctuating stuff on like Tua's hip and Herbert, all you have to break down in his tape is his tape. There's no pro day, so people are going back and forth on him. I think it's just everyone is just given the same exact information. They all have to use the same exact information, and they still, for whatever reason, cannot come to an agreement on pretty much anything.
Right. It seems like there's a lot of disparity with the top 50, 60, 75 players in this class. Then at the very top of the draft, other than Burrow, a lot of uncertainty, rumors spinning about, teams really going all in to try and get that number 2 pick from the Redskins. And who knows, do they want Herbert, Tua? Do they just want to draft? I mean, Mike Renner from PFF, who I really do enjoy his draft analysis, just said, I've given out 2 quote unquote Hall of Fame grades in my, 5-10 years doing this, Quentin Nelson and Chase Young. So Chase Young is a wrench in there, and all the Herbert versus Tua commotion going on is wild. So it's going to be really exciting to see how stuff starts to unfold at the very beginning of the draft. Feels like there's so many different options and volatility and all that good stuff at the top. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Market volatility
For sure. Absolutely.
That's been a theme in the world and with the NFL, evidently.
Yeah, you can buy a drum of oil for negative $40, and you can buy a all-pro wide receiver for an overpaid running back in the NFL as well.
I guess we'll find that out, because you've got some of that stuff going on right now. You've got a lot of running back rumors popping off. Leonard Fournette, very much on the trade block. I'm a pretty, I would say, avid podcast listener. I don't know how much you dive into that stuff these days, at least. And there have been a couple of different NFL podcasts that are seriously debating the merits of trading for Leonard Fournette, which is maybe where I'm at a point where I'm all right, are we reaching a crescendo of draft season where we're talking about very seriously how much a move for Leonard Fournette affects a team or does not?
I think he's just a good back, whatever. He's cost $4 million. I think he's in the final year of his contract. But it's I don't know. My head is spinning. I just hope there's a world in this lifetime where running backs are valuable again. I don't know if it'll ever happen or when it'll ever happen. But at this point, it's you can't pay someone to take Leonard Fournette off of your roster is what the kind of theme going on when people talk about it is. So it's sad, kind of. I don't know. It's sad. I've always just liked running backs. I love a good running back, and now they are screwed.
I love a good running back.
I love a good running back. There's nothing when a back has a really good game and is just making guys miss and kind of taking over. It's just so pure. It's watching I don't know, 90s basketball, where guys weren't shooting threes quite as much, and it wasn't like that. They were just driving the lane, making stuff happen.
They were the bangers in the paint back in the mid 90s.
Sure, yeah, the guys that were driving the slashers.
At that point, it's kind of you just you don't hate the player, hate the game though. Don't hate the executives and coaches for devaluing them when they just kind of naturally are devalued. You know what I mean?
They kind of devalued themselves in their big contracts and then just not living up to them. It just simply hasn't worked out once.
What do you think about a future where running backs can increase their value by playing multiple positions, not just as a receiver, but if a running back was a sick linebacker too, or a safety?
See, when you're growing up, if you play
they already do that
linebacker,
right?
Yeah, if you're in Pee Wee and you're the best player on the team. See, now we're getting to the point though where the kid who's the best player on the team, the best athlete, is playing quarterback instead of running back. It used to be running back, linebacker, and you just go destroy. And if they're able to go both ways, do some wild stuff, why not?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe that's just an indication of the whole positionless NFL type deal. Who knows? But I mean, I would definitely be for that if it could help save running backs, or at least help them make money moving down the line. I think
sure.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's where it's going in basketball as well as football. Positionless doesn't, why put guys in a box if they can do this assignment, execute that assignment, match up with this player on the opposing team. That's what they do. Not, they're in this position. It's very limiting. At the same time, you do have to have them in practice going through certain drills in order to execute those assignments. So I think that labeling them with a position can be limiting, but also is necessary in some way in practice to split guys up and have them study certain things and have them become, a master of certain assignments, certain positional necessity. So it's a fine line. It's an interesting line. And I mean, the Ravens are a team that definitely has embraced positionless defense, especially more than probably New England might have pioneered that a little bit more so. The Ravens have ran with it a little further, and obviously blitzing and doing some wild things. And short of having Matt Judon, go cover a wideout or nothing like that is happening exactly. But doing some wild things. And I think the Ravens are definitely at the forefront. So it's going to be interesting to look back 5 years from now and see, where it went. And like RPOs, people thought that RPOs were going to be a gimmick and you're going to be able to figure them out and they'll be gone soon. But they have taken over the entire sport at all, 3 levels in educational system football, K through 12 football, then amateur in college, and then now professional. So it's interesting to see, people are like, oh, it's just the Wildcat offense. Wildcat offense was a gimmick of sorts, even though it does exist in some extent today, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun to look back and see.
What is your final prediction on where a running back goes this weekend? I'm going to probably say middle of round 2.
I think at least one goes round 1.
Really?
Yes.
Swift, Edwards-Helaire.
I think it'll be Swift or Jonathan Taylor will go round 1. Someone will take one.
Interesting.
I think that there's still those scouts that value it. And really, when you go look at it, a lot of first round running backs, I'm not saying the top of the first round, because if you take someone top 5, like Saquon is one of the highest paid backs in the league. So that's why that's a little asinine.
On a rookie contract.
Yes, on a rookie contract. So that's not really getting utilized. When you go back and look through some of these first round guys and the production that they had versus the pay, it's outstanding. A lot of them. I mean, Fournette has had pretty good production on his rookie contract. He was a high one, though, so that's another bad example. But I mean, McCaffrey, a lot of those guys, a lot of those high second round picks, late first round picks, I think pan out over the course of that rookie contract and end up being a good deal. So I don't love it, especially for the Ravens. But let's say the Ravens just had Gus and Justice Hill, sure, then I would be a little bit more on board. If they only had 2 of the 3 guys that they currently have, I would absolutely be a little bit more on board. But they have a full room. And, the Miami Dolphins leading rusher last year was Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Which is sick.
It is definitely sick. Definitely awesome, really fun. But at the same time, like, I'm not mad at the Dolphins if they draft Jonathan Taylor to go.
It's kind of like the Raiders last year when they took Jacobs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Jacobs very productive his first year. Had a bad injury, which was a concern about him. Can he handle that big workload? And
it's like you have 3 first round picks. If you want to use one of them on like a luxury position, why not?
Right. If you have a plethora, if you have 3-4 picks in the first 75 picks, something like that, why not? You're fine. You're not completely tying your hands behind your back. But let's say, you're the 49ers right now. They have, I think, 13-31 and then nothing until the 4th round. I might be mistaken there, but it would be disappointing to see them handcuff themselves, not trade either of those picks, and then take a running back when they have a stable of guys, even though they don't really have one crazy good guy. Breida did some awesome things. Mostert did some awesome things. But don't limit yourself. But yeah, if you're building and you want to get a solid run game going and whatever, you don't really have one, absolutely go take a Swift, go take a Taylor, go take a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, those top guys. I mean, even Cam Akers getting a lot of runs. So I think we see one in round 1. But I just think the days of drafting guys top 5 at the running back position are probably gone.
And the fact that we're discussing Fournette now after he was one of those guys just 2-3 years ago, that pretty much maybe was the death knell in that happening. So yeah, like you mentioned, unless you bring that pass catching value as somebody like McCaffrey does, then you could probably say goodbye to it happening within the top 10 even. But yeah, I guess that's enough running back talk. What else is going on? I became a millennial TikTok influencer today.
You did. That was incredible. I almost completely forgot about that because right before we got on, I was like, yeah, we have to talk about that. That was insanely out of nowhere. And when I saw it, I was like, huh? I was like, I didn't even know you had I didn't even know he had a TikTok. And it started, and I immediately saw where it was going in the first 5 seconds. And I was like, yes. And I know whenever you've got your chain swanging a little bit around,
yeah,
I know that's when you start to really cut it loose. So I was like, this is going places. That was fantastic execution all the way around. And I was also curious because I saw the time limit, which I love that it was under a minute. So I was like, what exact notions or what exact little clips of DeCosta's thing is he going to pick out? And my favorite part of the whole thing was just Skyline Chili.
That's where I had to get creative with it because TikToks can only be 1 minute. I downloaded it a couple months ago. I think I downloaded it a couple months ago. I was gonna make one mashing up some of our shotgun videos, I think, somehow, but I couldn't figure it out, and I got really frustrated, and I deleted it, excuse me. And I re-downloaded it recently for just messing around purposes. And then that video came out, and I was just sitting there in my home office that I have here, functions for work and for like the podcasting studio. And I was like, you know what? Like, if I don't start using this now with this content gold that he just provided us, what am I even doing?
Exactly. And it was content gold that he gave us. It was so nice of him to do that the day before the draft. And that's just how you know that he's all set up and ready to go. You can see how calm he is, how cool he is. And then you can see some other guys that might get pretty riled up at their little technological situations. He's like, the funniest part is Acosta is like, oh yeah, this is my home office, like da-da-da. It's like his like wife's side room, it looks like, kind of more so.
Yeah, it's definitely like the guest room that when all this shit started to go down, he just like had to set up a base of operations in there.
And it's hilarious because John Schneider has been talking about, he's like, I have 27 different monitors. Like Eric DaCosta's reaction is probably like, what is this guy never heard of multiple tabs? Like,
yeah, I know. It's sick. He definitely has like one tab per the 5 monitors that he has in there. And he thinks that's all he can use.
Yes, he's going Megavision, Megamind, Megavision, 20. Like, what do you do with 27 different monitors? It's like the guy in the Matrix, like surveying the world like God or something. I don't quite understand. The funniest other favorite part of DaCosta's videos, he's like, yeah, this is my little chair over here that I'll just be, my little purple chair I'll be chilling in when, nothing's going on, when we're not picking. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I know. It's my little purple chair. Like I kind of wanted to include that in mine, but like I couldn't think of anything. Like we didn't really have anything like that in the house. So I settled on just kind of using the monitors in the way that I could, using the draft plan in the way that I could with the Vontae Mac, no matter what. Yeah, and just getting creative, man. I mean, there's nothing else to do than just, make some content. So that's what your boy did today on a Wednesday.
It is awesome. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think everyone thoroughly enjoyed it. It came out of nowhere, which was the best part. And good pat on the back, round of applause for Jake.
Thanks. I needed that. I really hope it makes its way to Lacey at some point, though.
Lacey DaCosta will catch wind. She's very active on Twitter. Shout out Lacey. Number one.
I didn't want to be the guy that sent it to her, and like I don't necessarily want you to either. I just want it naturally to make its way to her.
Of course. Tweet it out. Number one first GM in the NFL, Lacey DaCosta.
Oh yeah, you gotta love it, man.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of all we had going on today. I mean, we've already recorded the last 2 days in a row. Is there any other news you want to hit on?
I don't think anything crazy happened today. Just Skins getting offered. Of course, number 2 draft pick is always going to get offered.
I guess we didn't talk about Gronk, which is kind of a big story.
I forgot about Gronk. See, Gronk is like spoiled for me because Barry McCockiner made that like an April Fool's joke with that fake SportsCenter account. Right. So in my head, I'm still like, that's fake. That's not real. And I don't even like understand the implications of it. Yeah, I'm not gonna understand until the NFL season actually happens. And at this point, they have Cameron Brate, OJ Howard, and Rob Gronkowski, one of the greatest tight end rooms of all time. Even though OJ will probably get moved at some point during this.
Solid, yeah. And there was like reports coming out that Howard was going to get moved in that deal. He ultimately did not,
which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was Gronk and a 7th from New England for a 4th from Tampa Bay. Decent enough business for New England. I mean, he's not going to play for you. You might as well get a 4th round pick out of it. But
sure.
When I heard that, I was like, yeah, they're definitely getting OJ Howard or like somebody out of this.
Right. And what I think draft wise for the Bucs, they had maybe the worst secondary in the last like 5 years last year. They were getting rained on a game by game basis. So I would assume they're going to want to go target a guy like Carlos Henderson, CJ Henderson, or some DBs and safeties and anyone who can cover at all throughout the first couple picks they have there. I think they have 3 top 100 picks. So I'm interested to see how they're going to play that now that they're all in.
Yeah, I mean, Gronk, I feel like he doesn't really bring this much at this point, though. Like, I feel like he's a good tight end and nothing more. Like, he's not Gronk.
I don't know. He's pretty skinny, so he might be a little fast.
Yeah, the year off helps, I think. He'll be athletic, but like he's not going to be part of what made him was like how powerful he was and how he would just out rebound guys and just actually, just truck stick dudes. Like I don't feel like he's going to be doing a lot of that, but he'll be good.
It'll be like literally and figuratively Jason Witten unretirement on steroids. Like, he's going to be a little slower, but the experience, the technical prowess, the confidence, the just the experience is going to prevail. And I mean, he's still going to dominate guys in the red zone. I'm sure he can still get his hands on, edge players and linebackers and ruin their day. I mean, he's just basically been doing stuff in the WWE. So I think he's fine.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, the WWE stuff. I had almost forgotten about that and all the haze that's been going on here. I guess Leroy was part of breaking this as well, so shout out to him. Mm-hmm. I think PFT's actually been getting like a little salty that like he didn't legitimately get credited for it, which is like,
right.
Okay, like you're not going to be.
Right.
Because if you play it like a joke, then you're going to be treated like a joke, Sorry, just laying down the facts over here.
It just makes good content. It just makes
as a very serious person, I'm just gonna let him know that.
Of course. And yeah, so I think Gronk will be fine because he's not gonna have to play a ton of snaps. They've got Brait. I'm sure they'll probably get rid of Howard, but if they keep him, a few snaps.
Yeah, dude, I honestly forgot Brait was there. Like, people were talking about him like he was one of the better tight ends in the league just a couple of years ago.
Him and Kyle Rudolph both are in that like weird, super awesome random game, but never consistently that good. Like, they both had one really great year, and then all of a sudden they'll have like a 3-touchdown game where they just clown people and can block.
Tight end also an easy position to forget about, right? Like, I feel like I talk to other fans and they have no idea about Mark Andrews. I'm like, this guy's a beast. Like, how do you not know anything about him? It's like, oh yeah, well, he's just like another generic white tight end in the AFC North.
Right. He's Vance McDonald. He's every Tyler Eifert. He's every single other tight end.
To those people, he is.
Right. To the randos.
Of course. Trey Burton just agreed to the Colts.
Trey Burton, I thought was going to do a lot better on the Bears.
So did I.
So a little disappointed there, but yeah, Colts all in, Bucks all in. Two teams that did not make the postseason that will probably make the postseason this year. And a mistake I made last year when I was kind of predicting, what the playoff slots were going to look like. Every year it's like 6 or 7 at least new teams from the previous season that weren't in the playoffs end up in it. So those two looking to be some heavy hitters.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. He's going to be rejoining Frank Reich. So if he can stay healthy, replacing Eric Ebron, I feel like that's kind of a sneaky good pickup.
Sure. Rivers always likes his tight ends. Gates. I mean, the hell's their tight end that they Hunter Henry. They've used him well when he's been available. So I think Phillip Rivers enjoys those boys underneath and in the red zone, being able to throw to the big hunks of meat. And Trey Burton he's a little bit smaller for a tight end, but he's versatile and can do some different things. And he'll always have that ring from Philly, so he'll be happy no matter what.
Big hunks of meat.
Tight ends, big hunks of meat. Meat sticks.
Yeah, I mean, so there's Trey Burton. That's more news. We covered Gronk, covered the Leonard Fournette stuff. Anything else we want to hit here?
I don't think so, my friend. I don't think there's anything else going crazy. So without further ado, should we bust into this good old mock drizzle?
Nothing going breezy, nothing going brazy. We can jump into the mock draft. So we didn't really prep too much on this. How do you want to do it? Do you want to go first or should I?
Do you want to do like dueling? Like we both do all 32?
Sure.
And we can just spitball a little bit. I like the idea of that. This is going to be our what we think will happen, not what we would do. Because we always do what we would do. What guys?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, let's do that.
So we'll just spitball and talk a little bit. Some we can just skip over, whatever. We can steal the same picks together. But I like that idea. I think that would be fun.
Cool beans. Yeah. Okay. So you want to go first?
Sure. Let's pick Joe Burrow because we're going to both pick Joe Burrow.
That's a hot take right there. Taking Joe Burrow, number 1 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals, the big, strong, athletic kid out of LSU, former Ohio State player, going to be heading back to the Queen City? Queen City?
Yes.
Queen City. Yes. There's like 4 Queen Cities, but I guess he was never there in the first place. He was in Columbus and he was from there too. Or was he from Cleveland?
I think
he's clearly done all our research here on Joe Burrow.
I believe he's from a little outside of Columbus. And Columbus, if I'm not mistaken, is like dead center in the state. And then Cleveland is northeast. And then Cincy is like southwest.
Cincy is Kentucky, basically. I've been there a few times. My brother went to college down there. So, yeah, I like Cincinnati. Underrated city.
I like Cincinnati as well. Really fun, like 80s, 90s aesthetic to the downtown
area.
area.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've actually that's something that like registered in my brain, but like I never was able to put words to it. It kind of looks like a Ferris Bueller type movie.
Yes, exactly. So it's got a little funk to it, some cool bars, but Joe Burrow, we love him. We've talked about him. Awesome. And I saw Bucky Brooks and I think Pete Prisco going back and forth talking about, how Tua could end up being a better player and talking about how, Joe Burrow needs to be in a RPO system layered with NFL throws and yada, 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 yada. Joe Burrow is a competitor. He's mobile, led all of college football in number of runs or whatever it was. He gets first downs and touchdowns when he runs the ball every single time. Tough, smart point guard. He's just like a really good point guard. Like a classic ball distributor, can shoot the three, makes good decisions, doesn't turn the ball over much. Love Joe Burrow, confident in him, think he'll be great. We like him in Cincinnati. I'm excited as a Ravens fan that I get to go see him as I'm going to be able to see him at M&T Bank Stadium and see how he progresses and what his deal is. So I'm excited. I'm going to be, not rooting against the Bengals a ton.
Yeah, I mean, if it all works out well, which it has before with the Bengals, I mean, as much as we clown on them, Carson Palmer was a significant part of my younger life as a sports fan.
He used to rip the Ravens apart.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, same thing. He ripped the Ravens apart for the better part of my teenage young adult life. Now it feels like there's good potential that Joe Burrow is going to be harassing us well into my 30s.
Yes, and I'm here for it for the first time. Hated Andy Dalton, hated Carson Palmer. Here for it for Joe Burrow. Excited for it.
Yeah,
fun quarterbacks in the AFC North this year.
I hated Carson Palmer first. He was like the first quarterback I remember being like, what's this douche's deal? Like him a lot now. I think he's a very good media savvy guy. Andy Dalton, same thing. I was like, this guy should not like logically be beating the Ravens as much as he does. He's just a little twerp. Like him a lot now. I think he showed some good resilience in the face of not the best organization handling his business for him. And yeah, Joe Burrow coming in, I just kind of like him right off the bat. Always sympathetic to the LSU cause because of my last name and my heritage. So it was a lot of fun watching him finally get it done for them. But yeah, it's business is going to be business now. We're going to have to go up against him, or at least our team that we root for is moving on. Washington Redskins. They're going to be chasing a young man named Chase Young.
Yeah, I don't think you pass on. Number one, Dwayne Haskins showed, number one, that he was a rookie, but number two, he is a capable NFL quarterback. He might never really light the world on fire and have a Patrick Mahomes type season, but I see him feeling like the good Donovan McNabb years, where he's like kind of tough and mobile. He's like somewhere in between like McNabb and Roethlisberger to me. Not maybe at Roethlisberger's peak, but I think Haskins is fine. Go get Chase Young. Go have one of the best, if not the best, defensive fronts in football. Like they're going to be similar to the 49ers to me, and maybe they can go get some linebackers that are a little more capable. But having Kerrigan, Payne, Allen, Ioannidis, Young, Sweat, John Anderson, that's a mean pass rush and a mean front in general against the run. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, they've been sick on paper for a while, and maybe this is the move that finally pulls them together. I don't know what their coordinator situation is right now off the top of my head, but yeah, it feels like maybe a move that's going to completely bring that defense around, kind of like Nick Bosa to the 49ers, like you mentioned. And you know what? If Haskins flops, then he flops, and you have Chase Young, and then presumably you're going to have a good shot at somebody like Trevor Lawrence. So just go ahead and take the best player here. Don't overthink it. And yeah, Chase Young, a Washington Redskin at number 2. Number 3, who are you going to be picking here for the Detroit Lions?
I think that Okuda's been almost put in ink by a lot of people, but I think Okuda is a very good prospect. I think he's going to be a really good corner, very solid all around. Wasn't tested a ton, didn't play that incredibly much, didn't go up against really that many high caliber receivers, and he just isn't like, if I take a corner number 3 overall, they better run in the 4.3s. They better be. I mean, he did have crazy good jumps. I'm going to go with Derek Brown, long story short, instead.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are huge against Derek Brown, think he can't rush the passer, which I think is complete and utter BS. But I think that they have literally nothing in their defensive front, maybe the worst defensive tackle group in football right now. Snacks Harrison left. I think they would really enjoy. I think Patricia would really enjoy having a big hog there that, to me, is right up there with Chase Young. I value Derek Brown as a prospect in this year's draft more than I value Quinnen Williams in last year's draft. Right up there, I think Ed Oliver's a little different player, but another explosive guy who has game-changing potential. To me, Derek Brown has game-changing potential. I think you can play him at 5 tech. I think you can play him at 3 tech. I think you can play him at 1 tech. I think he hasn't even scratched the surface. I think his potential is so much higher than other people that are down on him realize. And I've just been enamored with him as a prospect. He is a tank. The explosion, the length, the raw power, the intangibles. He makes plays in space that I've never seen someone his size make. And easy to say as a Ravens fan, he reminds me of Haloti Ngata, but that same stuff. Can make plays in space. He'll chase. He'll run to the sideline and make plays. Way better than someone you would anticipate. So I like that. And people say, you've got to be Ndamukong Suh if you're going to be drafted that high as tackle. I see a lot of similarities there. So I'm confident in Derek Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell. It really all comes down to, do you value that modern, pass coverage type of player, a la Jeff Okudah, or are you going for that game-wrecking defensive tackle, a la somebody like Derek Brown? They get rid of Snacks Harrison. He's gone. You also get rid of Darius Slay. So that's 2 players there that are kind of, out, and their D-line has kind of been faceless since Suh left anyway. Let's face it. Little pun there for you. Faceless, let's face it. But yeah, you get rid of Slay, very public divorce. So I think from the PR angle, it kind of lines up with Okudah a little bit. I don't necessarily love picking a player for PR, but I'm just going to pick him because I think he's the best player and he fits what I think, a modern sort of defensive guy like Patricia will want to do. I'm going to go ahead and take jumping Jeff Okudah at number 3 at cornerback for the Lions. Going to step in there and replace Darius Slay from day one.
Absolutely. And I can see it 100,000%. I think both of them I think those are the 2 highest probabilities. Isaiah Simmons, sure, you can factor in there, but moving on to the New York Giants, number 4, a lot of links, a lot of rumors, a lot of whispers on Isaiah Simmons there. A lot. I love the idea of Isaiah Simmons. They do have a really great defensive front. I also love Jeff Okudah there as well because they desperately need another corner. So they're a little bit of a wild card, but to me, Dave Gettleman, I think he loves Isaiah Simmons, and I might go Andrew Thomas if it were me, but I think Isaiah Simmons comes off the board at 4. Just the metrics, the size, the range, the versatility. Dave Gettleman loves those superstar types and the big boys, the guys that can do big things as well, of course, but the fact that he took Saquon, in everyone's face kind of, to me says, I want to take Isaiah Simmons. He impressed me. He's a guy that physically impresses Dave Gettleman. And that's why I think they go Isaiah Simmons.
For what I think is going to happen, I like your logic there, but for what I think is going to happen, Dave Gettleman very much treading on thin ice at this point. Who knows what the status is with him getting fired during something like all this that's going on in the world. But for me, I think he wants to protect his investment from last year. Like you said, he took Saquon in everyone's face. He also took Daniel Jones in everyone's face, very much so. And I think he really wants this thing to work out. Daniel Jones showed some promise last year. It's not a guarantee. So I think he wants to guarantee it as much as he can. I am going to go ahead and take Andrew Thomas. I just think you kind of swayed me a little bit. Best prospect at tackle, especially just for early on, just very solid. Going to step in there and be the starter for day one. He's not a project like somebody like Becton could potentially be. So I'm going to go ahead and take Andrew Thomas out of Georgia at left tackle for the Giants.
Those would be my 3 picks: Simmons, Okudah, and Thomas. Those are the three avenues that I would head there. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Miami Dolphins. And here's where we get so strange at this point in the draft with Tua and Herbert and, neither. So it's going to be quite difficult. And they do have Fitzpatrick there. That's what really freaks me out. And
is he going to play running back?
What'd you say?
Is Fitzpatrick going to play running back, you think?
Probably. He'll probably toss himself a little pitch.
I mean, he was a rushing leader, like you mentioned. That was just me doing the little callback joke thing that I'm very talented at.
You are very talented at that. But yeah, so I don't know what the hell Dolphins are going to do. They're going to want to pick up a tackle at some point, and they have that stopgap quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who randomly will beat 5 decent teams every year. And
it's not even random at this point.
Right. It's just expected that don't sleep on Fitzpatrick. He'll randomly destroy you at any given Sunday, he can come out and sling 55-yard passes where he looks like he's shot putting the football and just crush you to Deshaun Jackson or Devontae Parker, who had such an incredible year last year as well. So part of me wants to say they skip quarterback and that they just look at it like, let's get a beast going and then throw the quarterback on top and put him in a good situation. But in the end, I'm gonna go on Herbert. I'm gonna settle on Herbert. I believe that Herbert checks boxes, can be just that Joe Flacco type guy, that mild-mannered quarterback that comes in, is consistent, works hard, big arm, and much more mobile than people realize, but can make all the throws, all those cliches. And Tua's hip, man. Tua's hip really bothers me. I'm out on Tua a little bit. Just going back and watching the way he really failed to land well and take tackles well, and he is so elusive. But I've also heard that his hip injury was not like his surgery was not an athletic surgery. It was like a traumatic reconstruction surgery, and I just don't. Hip injuries really, really scare me. And I'm not a doctor. I don't have the medicals on Tua. I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents. So I'm going to go Herbert instead.
I hear you, and I've seen a lot of that going around, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with Tua. I just think this has been the plan literally going back like 2 years with them, where they trade Tannehill, bring in Fitzpatrick. Schefter literally tweets that day that they're turning their eyes to Tua. And, you can't predict what's going to happen over the course of a year. So he does have that traumatic hip injury, like you mentioned. I think it's a concern, but you do still have Ryan Fitzpatrick in the mix. You somehow still have Josh Rosen in the mix. I thought that guy had disappeared to, I don't know, like Papua New Guinea or something. It was just never going to be in the picture again, but he's still very much there. Very much maybe a little bit of a strong verbiage, but he's still there. So you have 3 quarterbacks now. 2 of them you can throw out to the Wolves if necessary. I think the Dolphins are going to be somewhat scrappy this year, so maybe not even throw them to the Wolves. Get to some action this year, nothing crazy. Let him get comfortable on his feet again and have him be the face of your franchise moving forward. I think it's just kind of been written in the stars going all the way back a year, like I mentioned, and I'm going to go ahead and go with Tua Tagovailoa as the 5th overall pick to Miami. Dale.
Go for it. Moving on, we got the LA, Carson, San Diego Chargers. They, I feel like, aren't taking a quarterback. And I love Tyrod. I've always thought Tyrod is capable of being a fine starter. Tyrod is always capable of being a fine starter. And I think that I think they are a slam dunk team drafting in the first round. And for me, I think that this is a good place for Jeff Okudah to go, who has not gone for me yet. I think that sneakily he falls out of that 3-4 mix, and then the Chargers come gobble him up, and suddenly they've got Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, Casey Hayward, Ingram, Bosa. They drafted the interior player as well, and then Uchenna Nwasu and some okay linebackers. So I'm going to go with Okudah. I think this would be a sneaky spot. I see the Chargers ending up with a sneaky player here, any way you cut it. But I like Okudah. I like, of course, a tackle like Thomas, who I haven't taken yet, or one of those. But I think the Chargers end up with a sneaky good player.
Yeah, I like Tyrod too. I just kind of don't really buy all the stuff surrounding him. I feel like the more votes of confidence you get as a quarterback, the less confident your team is in you. And as much as I do like him as a bridge quarterback, I think they are going to go ahead and get that guy in behind him, a la the Browns with Baker Mayfield. And I do think it's going to be Herbert with the way that the board has fallen. So I'm going to go Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon, to the Southern California Carson Chargers, sponsored by Goodyear.
Boom. Moving on, we got the Carolina Panthers. Derek Brown linked there a lot. Isaiah Simmons linked there a lot. Matt Rule in his first year loves super, super, super high effort players. And so they got Russell Okung from the Chargers and sent Trey Turner, which was a strange trade. But they also acquired Teddy Bridgewater. They've got McCaffrey. They got DJ Moore. They got Curtis Samuel. Defense completely decimated. So I definitely think Derek Brown, if he's there, is an option. But I'm gonna go ahead and nab another kind of high effort, high intensity, high ceiling player in Tristan Wirfs. I think that would be a good pick for the Panthers. He has the athletic profile. He has inside outside versatility. He came from offensive lineman U, one of the two up there in the Big Ten with them in Wisconsin. So I think that would be a really strong fit and an interesting fit as well.
Yeah, so best player on the board still available for me is going to be Isaiah Simmons, and I'm going to take him. I think Matt Rule is going to want a slam dunk player to throw into that defense right away. Isaiah Simmons is going to be that. He can play multiple positions, very versatile, very athletic, and just that type of dude that you want to bring into your culture when you're trying to rebuild it a little bit. You've got Bridgewater coming in as that bridge stopgap quarterback type deal. So maybe not this year with the way that the board fell quarterback-wise. Just going to avoid that idea entirely and go with the best player, who is Isaiah Simmons to the Panthers.
Boom. I like it a lot. Moving on, we got the Cardinals. I feel like the Cardinals could be active in a trade here. This is a team I would signal in a high sneaky trade environment. But for me, I haven't taken Andrew Thomas. I haven't taken Mekhi Becton. I haven't taken Jedrick Wills. They sure could add, Javon Kinlaw, Derek Brown, some of those. But I think go get another tackle. Go get Kyler a really good line like he had at Oklahoma. So whether it's Thomas, whether it's Wills, whether it's Becton, whatever flavor you prefer, they have DJ Humphreys. So maybe Wills there would really fit, a guy who played natural right tackle, right guard, and they have Humphreys on the other side. But you can stick any of those three guys on either side. I mean, Orlando Brown was talking to the Ravens media. It's not a huge deal switching from left tackle to right tackle. It's just that your mistakes are going to turn into worse plays. If you're a left tackle and you make a mistake, the quarterback's getting hit on their blind side. They're not going to see the pressure coming as often. That's going to lead to sacks, forced fumbles. Whereas if the right tackle messes up, they can kind of evade, see it coming, a little bit more. So it's not a huge difference, but whatever flavor there you want. So I'm going to go ahead and call it Jedrick Wills. So that's one of the three we'll take.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I was thinking that as well, but the board fell in such a way that I got to get them some help on defense. And you mentioned the best player, Derek Brown, is still there for me. I'm going to go ahead and take him and throw him on that D-line. They just couldn't really stop anyone last year. And as much as you do need to get help for Kyler Murray, both at receiver and at offensive line, great prospects there on the O-line, as we mentioned. But I just think Brown is that type of guy, like you mentioned. You've kind of brought me around on him as well, where I just see him as one of those guys who's going to step in and just be that Quinnen Williams and Ndamukong Suh type player. So I'm going to go ahead and get Derek Brown and throw him on that Cardinals D-line to help out with, I believe, Vance Joseph's defense.
Yes. Yep.
So,
Vance Joseph's defense. Love Vance Joseph as a defensive coordinator. Would like that a lot.
The time of his life.
He's having the time of his life. Definitely. Moving on to the Jaguars. Jaguars to me are screaming trade back. What are they going to get here? I have Tua on the board. I haven't had anyone take Tua yet. So it would be a classic Jaguars just being idiots when they have what I find to be a capable quarterback and could easily get one next year. So maybe that's a possibility, but I would expect to trade back. I'm going to go ahead and take CJ Henderson instead. I think that he's a top 10 type of corner. I think he allowed 39 catches for like 348 yards last year, according to PFF, and has insane press man skills. Really sticks with guys. Gave Jamar Chase a lot of really good reps, even though he got picked one play and let up a big touchdown. But I think CJ Henderson is a replacement, a trade back, or something stupid like drafting Tua and then making some weird thing. But let's just roll with Gardner Minshew, please. He's like if Ryan Fitzpatrick just had his body rejuvenated like 13 years and had all of his future ahead of him still, but the moxie that he currently has and a little bit more Southern like wild card to him and
more accuracy.
Yeah, and that's just perfect for Jacksonville. Like Gardner Minshew as a quarterback in Jacksonville, I love it. I want it to stay. Not from a necessarily like a whatever scouting, analytical, exact football perspective, but more so of a fan perspective. Let's roll with Gardner for another year, see what he can do. Give him a weapon, give him whatever. I don't care. Give him a lineman. But I think let's avoid Tua here. Give him CJ Henderson, and they've got another pick if they don't trade back. But replace the cornerbacks. They have no corners right now. Bouyer's gone. Ramsey's gone. Bring in a Florida boy and see what we can do.
It would be fucking sick if they moved to London and he's the face of the franchise.
That would be insane.
It would be so awesome.
That would be insane.
Like he's at like Spurs games and stuff. Like
yes, like
shotgunning beers up in the gantry with the lad,
secretly smoking DMT or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, you got to think he's going to be going big time Joe Rogan. But going on to the Jaguars for myself, taking a look at the board here. Interesting. They really don't need O-line help. All three of the four top guys are there. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and go CJ Henderson as well. I mean, like I mentioned, I kind of hate doing that replacement type thing where you get rid of a guy and then you just immediately replace him in the draft. But you get rid of Jalen Ramsey, very public, ugly exit. You need to get a guy in there at corner. I mean, they lost Bouye as well. So you need a guy who's going to step in and just be that dude for you right away. And Henderson, for me, second best corner, like you mentioned, he's going to be able to go ahead and do that. So go ahead and take CJ Henderson at 9 for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Absolutely. So the Browns, what I would do is going to be very different from them being the most criminally, I don't even know what to describe, front office always. So I'm going to do something wild. Let's put CeeDee Lamb on the Browns. Let's do it. They got Conklin. They can probably get, a decent, okay tackle later. Isaiah Simmons is a possibility. I had him off the board already really high. That's something I really don't want as a Ravens fan. I don't want them being able to spy Lamar Jackson with Isaiah Simmons. That would be bad news bears. I don't want Isaiah Simmons in the AFC or the AFC North opposing. He's such a good matchup to be able to run and contain Lamar, kind of like we saw with Derwin James, able to do some things. But let's do something crazy. Let's do something Cleveland Browns. Let's take CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, that definitely, jives with what they've been doing the last couple of years as far as acquiring the flashy player. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen over the next 24 hours? They could move Odell Beckham for Trent Williams, right? And then that just solves offensive tackle in the next 24 hours. So I like that a lot. I'm going to go ahead a little more traditional. I still have Jedrick Wills on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and take him, and he can be that bookend tackle on the other side of Conklin. So pretty simple for me. Jedrick Wills to the Browns at 10.
I hope if they do that, that would be smart. That's what they should do, in my opinion. Absolutely.
John Dorsey, the Cowboy, you just never know what's going to happen.
And just whatever's in the water in Cleveland makes them do crazy shit on draft day.
Whatever's in the lake.
Whatever's in the lake.
It's oil, I think, that gets set on fire every now and then.
And then they all just howl at the moon and crack open fridges of Bud Light when they win games. But moving on to the New York Football Jets. Please, for the love of God, give Sam Darnold time. I think that Joe Douglas understands he's got an opportunity to get a franchise left tackle. I haven't had Andrew Thomas, who is my number one tackle, off the board yet. He very well could be. I also have Mekhi Becton here. So pick your poison, one of the two. I'm going to go with Thomas. I personally prefer Thomas. That's my pick. Give Darnold franchise left tackle.
Yeah, definitely. I'm confused about whether they're going to be prioritizing line or weapons in terms of tight ends, wide receivers. It feels like they've made some moves as far as the weapons and the skill players go, and it kind of hasn't worked out entirely, but they're pretty barren in every single aspect. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the way that the board fell, and you still have two of the offensive tackles just sitting there, and then you have the top three wide receivers available for me. I'm going to go ahead and go with tackle. I'm going to go with Becton, Mekhi Becton out of Louisville, to be that mammoth of a man who's going to come in and just be that bodyguard for Sam Darnold. He really needs it. Chuma Edoga didn't quite work out in the way that they were expecting. Maybe he can still do so at a different position, but I think you just take Becton and slide him into left tackle and you don't overthink it. You could definitely take one of these stud wide receivers and I wouldn't argue with it, but just with the way that things have gone, I think Joe Douglas, being a traditional guy coming from Baltimore and Philly that prioritize offensive line, I think that's what he's going to do. And if it falls this way, you take Becton and you don't look back.
Boom. Love it. Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. I could be entirely wrong. I'm going bold. I said I feel strongly. I'm not terribly confident in Tua's hip. It worries me a lot. So let's put Tua Tagovailoa on the brand new Las Vegas team. That is something that will get the whispers, the rumors, the excitement, the clicks, the listens, the tickets, everything, whatever. Derek Carr, they're pretty much free of after this year, I believe. And I just don't think that Gruden loves Derek Carr enough, and I guarantee that he loves Tua as much, if not more, than anyone who isn't named Trent Dilfer. So in this weird mock that I've done where I'm just not as confident in Tua being healthy, I'm going to go ahead and put him on the Raiders and let them see what they can do there.
I call this guy Billy, man, because he ain't a lamb. He's a goat. CeeDee Lamb to the Las Vegas Raiders there at number 12 for me. They just need playmakers big time. One more year, Derek Carr. Let's give it a try in the new Sin City. And, with these uncertain times, a change at quarterback could be pretty, it could be a tough move for your franchise. So maybe you just stick with steady old Derek Carr, see if you can get past that 500 mark, and give him all the help that he can get with CeeDee Lamb there. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like I mentioned with the Panthers, you can just go and get a quarterback next year or the year after that. You're pretty much starting with a blank slate here in Vegas. So stick with Derek Carr for 1 year, get him some help. That is my pick for the Raiders.
Boom. Moving on to the Niners. They're going to trade back, I think, with having very limited picks from either 13 or from 31 to accrue some more capital. But if they don't, let's go add Jerry Jeudy onto this offense, a pure wide receiver to go along with the gadgety, crazy, do-it-all Deebo Samuel guy that I love so much. Kittle, Samuel, they've got Kendrick Bourne. Apparently they were looking to add potentially OJ Howard or another tight end, something of the sort. Kyle Shanahan just gets another weapon. That defense is still relatively intact, even though they lost to Forrest Buckner. So maybe Kinlaw is, a commonly thought thing as well, but Jerry Jeudy there makes a lot of sense. Kyle Shanahan would love to have that route running ability, similar to what he had with some of the guys in Atlanta. So boom.
There's going to be plenty of wide receivers available in the second round this year and beyond that. And just the idea, I know we've mentioned Wirfs projecting well as a tackle. The idea of him as a guard in a Kyle Shanahan system, I cannot pass that up. And with him still being there, I'm going to go ahead and go Tristan Wirfs to the Niners at 13. Like I said, they've got other picks to make the wide receiver position happen. So I'm going to go ahead and go Wirfs here.
Cool. Moving on to the Bucs. Got Gronk, got Evans, got everything. So
what do you get for the team that has everything?
You get them another stud offensive lineman. DB, I think maybe a Grant Delpit would be great here, sneaky like that. But I'll go ahead and throw him back in because give Brady a line, give him the weapons. Worry about maybe acquiring some DBs later and doing some other funky things to improve that secondary. But Becton, give Brady no excuses with his entire offense at this point, and just really continue to make that group incredible.
Yeah, they're an interesting group because their defense, they've got a ton of talent. They weren't great last year. They had some guys that really showed out, like Shaq Barrett, who's going to be there once again. JPP's in the mix. Sue is still in the mix. I mean, they've got some guys for sure, but they just need guys to help round things out. And the way that the board has fallen for me, it's a little bit weird. Not a lot of great tackle prospects for them in this spot. Can't really go with another wide receiver. I thought about going Hammer and Hank because he would fit well with the top two guys that they have there. But I'm going to go ahead and go Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman out of South Carolina, who's going to slot in there next to Sue and some of the guys that they have. Very high character, upstanding dude that's going to help you compete for a Super Bowl this year, which they really need to do. So I'm going to go Kinlaw, who, like I mentioned, is just going to slot in there from day one and just be one of the leaders on the team, which is going to be big for a defense that kind of needs an identity right now, despite the talent that they do have. I would have gone secondary if it had fallen a little bit differently, but it just didn't quite work out. So Javon Kinlaw to the Bucs.
Boom. Moving on to the Denver Broncos. Receiver, everyone's enamored. All the Broncos fans are enamored with getting a receiver. They really want Ruggs because, thinking about the compliment to Cortland Sutton, it might be tough. I could see Justin Jefferson going there. I also feel like Kenneth Murray is a sneaky fit here. I don't know why he seems like an Elway guy with the character and with the hard-nosed stuff, and I think he would fit in there. I think that would be a really great defense for him to come into with some of the weapons that they have there and kind of the way they use their linebackers. So I'll go and give Broncos fans what they want, which is Henry Ruggs. And that 4.2 speed, it's just irresistible for GMs. Maybe he goes earlier than this. And I've seen a lot of people that are a little lower on him as we get closer to the draft, calling him a second-round guy and things. But, if Fabian Washington, Darius Hayward-Bay, and I am naming, Al Davis Raiders guys, but John Ross, another one, those speed demons just make GM salivate, make scouts salivate the possibilities. So I'll go ahead and put Hammer and Hank in the Denver Broncos uniform and see what he can do with Drew Lock and the rest of those guys.
I like it a lot. I'm going to go in the other Alabama direction and go with Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver out of Alabama, who I just think they're going to like him a little bit better as a complete prospect to pair up with Sutton, but either option is freaking awesome for me. I like I've mentioned, I like Henry Ruggs as a prospect a little bit better, but I do see the argument that Jeudy is the better player. So I'm going to go ahead and just have old Horseface go with who he probably thinks is the better player in Jerry Jeudy at number 15 for the Broncos.
Sweet. And now we are on to the Dirty Birds, the ATL Falcons. Tough. They need corners pretty bad. Maybe they can go AJ Terrell or a Christian Fulton or a Jalen Johnson. But we'll go ahead and throw Kinlaw there. think the cornerback class has some players that'll be available in the later rounds. And Kinlaw is a special talent. Stick him up front with Grady Jarrett. They usually get those speedy guys, Kayvon Chason, might tempt Dan Quinn because he just loves those speed rushers. But they already have, Deion Jones and what's his name, DeAndre Campbell and some of those other guys. So let's see what they can do with Javon Kinlaw and Grady Jarrett. I think that'll help the interior of their defense a little bit up that spine. Then they got Deion Jones and Keanu O'Neal behind it. So let's see what happens there.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the board fell for me too. But ultimately, I feel like this is a pick that's been mocked a lot, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Kayvon Chason at the edge there. They just haven't been able to figure out the edge position, and maybe this is a guy that they're not going to be able to figure out as well. But I don't think you should just stop taking swings because you can't get a hit. I think you just go ahead and take Chason, see what happens, see if you can mold him into the pass rusher that you need him to be, because with the way that the board fell, I didn't really want to take Terrell there. And they're pretty much set on offense the way I see it. If there had been one of these offensive linemen that fell, I probably would have done it. But for me, it just makes sense with Kayvon Chason falling to where he did and all the other players getting picked. I'm going to go ahead and send him to the ATL Falcons.
Sweet. And now we're on to the Cowboys. For me, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson. I'm looking at Grant Delpit. I'm looking at Xavier McKinney, Kayvon Chason. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit weird. Let's put Cesar Ruiz there. And we've seen some other offensive guys go off the board, but history has told us Jerry Jones's front office wants a monstrous offensive line. They see the center, Travis Frederick, retire. They still have Zach Martin. They still have Tyron Smith. They still have Lael Collins. The left guard's escaping me, the dude from Texas. Zach
Martin.
Connor Williams.
Connor Williams, sorry.
The other one. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and round it out, give them another center. I think that they're just addicted to that offensive line. So I think fans might be a little pissed. They want the safeties really bad. There's other safety. You can get Ashton Davis, Antoine Winfield, whatever, a little bit later. So let's go ahead and put Cesar Ruiz there, first interior offensive lineman off the board.
Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. Might be a little bit early for some people to consider Ruiz, but I do think the fit is good and it makes sense as far as their philosophy works. But Jera, he likes his toys. And one of the toys that started to fall a little bit here, it's Henry Ruggs, wide receiver from Alabama. I just think he's going to fall in love with one of these receivers and fall in love with the idea of just giving Dak that plus option at the wide receiver position, pair him up with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and you've got three legit guys. You've got Zeke there in the backfield, obviously. You lose Jason Witten, which is obviously a huge blow at tight end, but you could maybe make something happen there at some point later. It doesn't really line up. So just going to go ahead and get them another toy to potentially propel them to a Super Bowl run, which they desperately need out of Dak, to help figure out this contract situation, because who knows what's going to happen. Get him some more help. Get him Hammer and Hank. Henry Ruggs to the Cowboys.
Love it. So now we're back to the Dolphins for their second pick of the first round. Interesting spot on my board. I've got Chason, I've got McKinney, Delpit, Jefferson, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, all these different guys. I did take Justin Herbert earlier, so I'm going to avoid going that path. I think they have a sneakily good inside linebacker group, so I'm not going to go with Murray or Queen. But let's give them Justin Jefferson. Let's ramp up this receiver room. Let's see. I think they're going to add an offensive weapon. It might be a running back here. It might be a receiver, whatever it is. But I think he would complement Devontae Parker working on the boundary really well. And Jefferson has some Miami swag, has LSU swag. Watching him, the way him and Jamar Chase, just something about their swag, the way they carry themselves on the field, the tenacity that they also play with the ball in their hands as blockers, all that good stuff. I think that Justin Jefferson would be an exciting weapon for Justin Herbert or for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and a guy that you can really hang your hat on as a blocker and do some gritty things for you.
Makes a lot of sense. It feels like they do have a little bit of a need at wide receiver. They've got some guys that are there, like Parker, that have flashed, haven't maybe fully put it all together yet. But Jefferson, I just feel like he's going to be a complete package from day one. So I like that pick a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and sort of steal your thunder a little bit. I am also going to go with Cesar Ruiz here, not for the Cowboys, but for the Dolphins. They need some help along that offensive line still. They've made some additions, but I just feel like he's a guy who would slot into that interior side, whichever guard position you want to put him at, and just be a great player for you from day one. You hear some great things about him just as a person, which I think is going to be big for a rebuild like this that has just kind of been so monumental. And he would fit well with Brian Flores, and you got to get somebody in there to protect Tua. So yeah, I'm going to go Cesar Ruiz at guard for the Dolphins.
Awesome. Then moving on to the Raiders again. what I would do is Delpit. It's tough. They got Chase on. They acquired some pretty good pass rushers. Max Crosby really balled out last year. They got some inside linebackers. I don't think that excludes them from maybe a Queen or a Murray. I think it's tough to pass on Grant Delpit as a single high free safety. And that's a pick that I've loved and keep loving. And this is a little more of what I would do, but I think in Gruden's world, I think he would, in Mayock's world as well, high character, huge program, awesome dude as well as player. And I'm just going to go ahead and put Grant Delpit there. I think that combo of pairing him with Abram on the back end, they've got some pass rush, they got some linebackers, they do still need some corners, but I like Delpit a lot. I think he goes higher than people realize because he just has that dominant range and IQ as a single high safety. And that just, when you have a guy that can play a true single high and play it well, it adds an element to your defense that you can only achieve that play calling with that kind of guy. So I'm going to put Delpit there.
I'm going to go Grant Delpit as well for all the reasons you mentioned. I feel like they are still in the process of that rebuild. They want to get some of those big school, big name guys that are going to come in and just make some impact for them. And Delpit very much would be a big time Mayock pick and a guy that Gruden would love in camp in, I think, a different way to what you saw with Jonathan Abram on Hard Knocks. I think Abram came in as a little bit of a, swaggering kind of trash talker. I feel like Delpit is a little bit of the opposite of that, kind of a quiet leader. So having that blend at safety, both in playing style and in leadership style, is going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. I just think that is a perfect marriage of Delpit to the Raiders. So moving on to the Jaguars, again, in a funky place, I had them taking CJ Henderson at number 9. I think that, they have so many net losses on defense that, we talked about, we don't love to replace. So I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give them an offensive lineman, a guy who has had a really strong Senior Bowl. Josh Jones, the tackle out of Houston. He's PFF's highest graded tackle. I think he could go a little bit higher on this board or on my board at least, and in the actual draft tomorrow. People realize a lot of people saying 6-7 tackles, they'll supersede the receivers in the first round and maybe the top of the second. So let's go put another tackle there. The Jags have some decent linemen for sure, but they are a little weak on the outside. And Josh Jones, I think, really showcased himself at the Senior Bowl and just very rarely screwed up during his time at Houston. A lot of neutral or positive graded plays. I think he, with even better coaching, even higher level coaching, will really flourish. So I think, offensive lineman there. I would look for the Jags to trade back in the scenario with maybe the Saints, with maybe the Patriots, maybe the Ravens, maybe the Eagles, who knows, whatever it is. But, well, I guess not the Eagles, so they're just one pick behind. But, I think Josh Jones is an interesting fit there. We'll see what they do. This is a tough one for me, so I'm not quite sure.
It is very tough. I'm going to go ahead and go with Xavier McKinney, which is a little bit of a weird one. You had Barry Church there at safety forever. He's been gone for about a year, I believe. Ronnie Harrison has stepped in and played pretty well for them. But I'm going to go ahead and go with McKinney, who I think is similar to Delpit from a personal perspective, where he's just kind of that quiet leader type guy from a big school. But, opposite of Delpit, he is kind of that strong safety, big hitting type of guy, but he can cover as well too. Make no mistake about that. He is a modern player. So Xavier McKinney is going to jump into that secondary and join, I believe, did I get Henderson for them at number?
Yeah, I think we both took Henderson there.
Yeah, so he's going to be joining Henderson there in that secondary and kind of help them remake the magic that they had a couple years ago with that beastly secondary in 2017. I think both of those guys are going to be really good for them.
Boom. Moving on to the Eagles. Wide receiver, cornerback. Those are the options. Maybe a linebacker, maybe a Patrick Queen or a Kenneth Murray. I think one of those guys will have gone off the board at this point, so I'm a little frustrated. But let's go ahead and throw Denzel Mims into the mix. He's a boundary receiver through and through. They don't need slot. They have Zach Ertz. They have Goddard over the middle of the field. They need someone who can separate. Denzel Mims, to me, fits a somewhat similar profile as DK Metcalf, a guy that the Eagles really should have considered acquiring last year. Would have been an awesome fit. They ended up getting Dillard, and I don't recall what they did in the second round. They also have JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who was Arcega-Whiteside, who disappointed, and Eagles fans were pissed that he was so disappointing. But Denzel Mims, yeah, let's go see if they can get a freaky boundary guy. And Mims has gotten a lot of run from the Senior Bowl. Which my thing is, I want to see all the junior receivers at a showcase, Junior Bowl, whatever. Call it something not the same, but it just pisses me off because.
How about just the players who have entered the draft bowl?
Right, exactly. And it's just so frustrating because my evaluation of Laviska Shenault, that's a guy I think of, would be so much different if I or confirmed or flipped or whatever, if I saw him against corners, running a different route tree, what he can do vertically one-on-one. And that's why Denzel Mims frustrates me as well. His tape doesn't quite show that, but a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff that he's going to be a first-round kind of lock guy. He's got the speed. He did have some drops issues, but can make some unbelievable catches and separate deep and win deep, and that's what the Eagles need.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Mims being a little bit of a project there. I still have Justin Jefferson on the board, so for me, like I've mentioned, if Howie Roseman does not make that pick, I'm going to have to investigate him for some sort of weird dealings going on, because you need a wide receiver. You need a guy who's going to come in and just be a dog for you. And Justin Jefferson is that, can win in a phone booth, can beat man coverage, play inside, play a little bit of outside if you need him to. Might be a little redundant with Arcega-Whiteside, but I think he's more athletic ultimately and would probably be a better player from day one. So go ahead and get Justin Jefferson there to start for you and get Carson Wentz some gosh darn help.
Absolutely. Poor Carson Wentz did the damn thing by himself, got them to the playoffs with no help. Other than Ertz, who was so beaten up, had like fractured ribs and collapsed. I don't remember what he had. Crazy injuries. But let's go into the Vikings. For like the 37th year in a row, they grab a press corner. Let's go ahead and put A.J. Terrell. Picked that Vaz made a little while back. Awesome fit there. I really like that fit. They love those physical press corners, long press corners. That's what A.J. Terrell is. Pretty sure I saw his odds to go in the first round on most books were like minus 270, minus 330. So I don't know what they know, but that's going to go ahead and tell me he's a first round corner most of the time. So Mike Zimmer loves his press corners. Get him one. AJ Terrell, really solid press corner.
Yep. Same thing for me. Going to go with AJ Terrell to the Vikings. Maybe they get a little scared off by the Mackenzie Alexander experience, but I sort of doubt that. I just feel like Zimmer isn't the type of guy to hold a grudge based on something like that. So he's going to go ahead and take AJ Terrell to ostensibly replace Mackenzie Alexander, their cornerback.
Boom. And I feel like Zimmer can hold a grudge. He's a mean ass.
Oh yeah, because not for something stupid. Like I feel like he's sensible enough guy.
Right. And now moving to the Patriots. I've seen Kenneth Murray there a lot. I've seen AJ Epinesa there a lot. Zach Bond there a lot. I've got Kayvon Chase on the board still. I've got Xavier McKinney. Those two guys scream New England Patriots to me. Pick either one of them. We'll go ahead and take Chase off the board because he has been so highly touted to probably go before this. So I'm not terribly confident in the accuracy of him getting this deep, but Chase can play off ball, do some different things. He can stun, he can loop, he can cover, talent, youth, whatever. Yeah. Patriots like that on defense. Let's go ahead and do it.
Man, this is kind of a tough one. I feel like they're kind of not going to be doing the quarterback thing this year. Do you feel the same way?
I think there is a world where they acquire Tua Tagovailoa in some devil magic with like players and picks and future picks or something. And then I think there's a world where they just chill and get like Jake Fromm, as we've discussed so often.
I think they're probably going to wait for a Hurts or a Fromm. So
right. Hurts from the Anthony Gordon. I could absolutely see one of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. So in round one, I'm going to go in the route of athletic linebacker, like they did with Jamie Collins back in 2013 and kind of surprised everyone. I think that was in the second round. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and go Patrick Queen, linebacker out of LSU. I think he's going to slot in there as an alpha dog at the middle linebacker position. He just does everything really well. I wouldn't say he's necessarily like a superstar athlete like Kenneth Murray, but he understands assignments. He understands what he needs to do. Kind of would be a CJ Mosley type coming into the league at middle linebacker for them, which Belichick would like a lot. He just likes guys that are going to step in and understand things and go about their business. So I'm going to go Patrick Queen for the Patriots.
Sweet. Moving on to the Saints. I'm going to go Patrick Queen, stays in Louisiana. I think that he comes in besides Demario Davis, can do some different things. Demario Davis has a very similar profile to Kenneth Murray. Came into the league as a two-down player, got a lot better against coverage after a couple of years. So I think Queen there, 20 years old, stays in the home state, helps the Saints defense immediately. And yeah.
Saints, I'm going to go ahead and help them out at cornerback. They obviously have Marshawn Lattimore, but getting another guy there obviously isn't going to hurt him, especially with the way that the NFC South is shaken out. Tom Brady coming in there to Tampa Bay. You got to think there's going to be some shootouts with him and, some of the other teams like the Falcons, Matt Ryan's got some more weapons to work with. So it's going to be a high-flying division as always. Grabbing a guy like Jeff Gladney out of TCU to slot in there next to Marshawn Lattimore is going to help slow teams down a tad bit.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Vikings. Let's go Jalen Reagor. In the same kind of little crazy receiver mold, I guess not really so much. I saw Eric Crocker compare him to Debo. We always talk about people comparing people to Debo and Anquan Bolden and those kinds of guys, but stocky, tough, fast. And I think, they already got their corner. Give them another receiver. You don't want to have a lacking receiver room. They got those 2 first-round picks. It feels like that's why they got rid of Diggs, because they're like, we can just replace you and pay someone else way less. So I feel like a replacement, whether it's maybe Ayuk, maybe it's Pittman, maybe it's Mims. I think one of those 2 picks ends up being a receiver. I'm fairly confident in that. And so I'll go Reagor.
I agree too, but I'm going to go in a different direction. The board has fallen differently for me, so I'm going to go ahead and go Denzel Mims, wide receiver out of Baylor. Weirdly, kind of a similar player to Thielen, I think, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Kirk Cousins has shown good chemistry with Thielen, so I think Mims would step in and be a similar guy for Kirk Cousins. So let's go Denzel Mims, wide receiver out of Baylor to the Vikings.
Sweet. Moving on to the Dolphins, I have them taking Herbert and then Justin Jefferson. And at this point, let's just keep adding those blue chips. Let's keep adding those big name, big school guys that can come in and kind of get a foundation of character and toughness and all that stuff. I'm going to go Xavier McKinney, Brian Flores. I was looking at him for the Patriots. Brian Flores, a direct disciple of Belichick. I think McKinney comes in, does some of the things Minkah Fitzpatrick did, maybe plays in the box and is more of a, dime linebacker than Minkah Fitzpatrick was. And Minkah definitely has more range on the back end by a fair amount. But I like that profile, I like those Swiss Army pieces. They got Van Noy, they got Collins, they got some other things. So I addressed offense with the first 2 picks. And I'm going to go ahead and take a good player that is a high character, high caliber player in McKinney.
I'm going to stick with offense. I had grabbed them I grabbed Cesar Ruiz. I'm going to go ahead and grab DeAndre Swift, running back out of Georgia, to be the first running back off the board for me, I believe. I just think that it's kind of similar to, like I mentioned, with the Raiders picking Josh Jacobs. You've invested in so many other spots. Running back may be a little bit of a luxury for you, but you have 3 first-round picks, and you do need a player at running back. I mean, as much as they are a little bit devalued these days, it still doesn't hurt to have a really good one. And like you mentioned with Ryan Fitzpatrick being their leading rusher last year, it's pretty embarrassing. You got to fix that. So let's get a stud in there. Let's get DeAndre Swift, who some believe is the best running back in this class.
I love that. I think that's a great fit. Dolphins did get Jordan Howard, and I think Swift can do a lot more, while Howard can kind of take a muscly load in some of those base packages and heavier personnel things as Swift is getting acclimated. Moving on to the Seahawks, John Schneider, I think I tried to find it really quickly. He has traded like an unbelievable. He's traded back in, I can't recall it. It's like 7 of the last 10 first rounds or something.
They're very Aussie-like in that regard.
Yes, loves trading back, so that's definitely a possibility. Cornerback was an issue for them. Safety was an issue. They ended up getting Quandre Diggs and kind of shored that up. They obviously have Griffin at corner as well. So I'm looking at Christian Fulton. I'm also looking at, what the hell is going to happen with Jadeveon Clowney. So they did take LJ Collier last year. He was hurt. He was kind of a random first-round pick. Their first-round picks are always super random. So what I think they will do, what is random? Tough. I'm trying to go super random. I'm going to go.
Listen to your heart.
Listen to my heart. My heart's going to say Marlon Davidson then. Let's go Marlon Davidson.
Is the franchise in on Listen to Your Heart, by the way?
No.
It's a new Bachelor franchise.
Oh, yeah. No. I watch The Bachelor. I do not watch Listen to Your Heart. No. Stupid. Gotcha. Stupid. I enjoy The Bachelor. I tried to get into this most recent one, and then I sat down on a Monday night. It's like, oh, hey, this is going to take up 3 hours of your time. I was like, nope. I like to watch the very beginning and be like, all right, she's going home. She's going home. This girl's going to go far. This girl's going to. I watch the first 2 or 3 episodes kind of intently, and then I zone out, hear about it through social media and other things, and then I pick back up towards the last when they do the hometowns and that kind of fun stuff at the end, when it's like the final girls that are serious. I don't care about all the middle stuff. They got all dramatic and whatever.
It felt like Pete was a little bit of a dud. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. He was he just got abused. He if you look at him at the beginning, he's all shiny and smiley, and at the end he's literally scarred, bruised, beaten, and crying all the time and stuff.
Let's go.
He would always walk in the room and be like, ladies, how we doing?
Ladies.
Yeah,
It's COVID, baby. Let's go.
His TikTok is traumatic to watch. It is so strange.
I'm gonna avoid his TikTok then, because as an emerging TikTok influencer, I'm not gonna be taking those bad habits from him.
Go read the comments on his TikToks. They are like literally assault on him. But yeah, so I took Marlon Davidson out of Auburn, and he's great. I love him. We talked to Evan Manukas, Fair Shake Football. He loves him. Helped me kind of see the light on him. I think he's a great player, which maybe means the Seahawks won't take him because they take shitty first-round picks routinely.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get this tackle thing figured out for them. Go Josh Jones out of Houston. A little bit of a project, a lot of people say, which is pretty tough considering the Seahawks just really need a finished product at offensive line for once. Poor Tom Cable. I feel like could have like a sitcom made about his life called Everybody Hates Tom, because he always gets mentioned as like one of the malcontents within that building and one of the reasons that they have not been able to get over the hump and win another Super Bowl. So going to go ahead and go Josh Jones, a little bit of a project at tackle, but hopefully they can figure it out because Russell Wilson needs some help on the offensive line. Seahawks fans are probably going to die of complaining about offensive line help if it doesn't happen for them very soon.
Boom. Now we're on to the Baltimore Ravens, the crab cake, rat, birds, whatever you want to call them. And
you crush that, dude.
Crab cake, rat birds, crab cake crows. And number one, Kenneth Murray is not going to be on the board here, I don't think. I didn't mean to do that. Number two, if he is, they'll take him. And so Kenneth Murray.
Kenneth Murray, interesting. Let me take a look at the board here. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman.
I hope so. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so this is kind of a situation where I want this to happen, but I also feel like it could happen, and here's why. You and I were not necessarily super plugged in, but we do have sources who have sources who have sources, and we have heard that they are focusing on offensive line. So the board for me has not fallen in a way that offensive line would really work. We also have quote unquote heard that they're not necessarily in on Queen and Murray in the way that some people think they are. I feel like they are pretty zeroed in on wide receiver as well. And I feel like they are going to like somebody like Pittman for a lot of different reasons. And they're going to like the fact that he would be a tremendous fit within this offense. I think he could maybe take some of the snaps that Boykin was seeing last year. You still want to see Boykin develop ultimately, but this takes some of the pressure off. You can get a guy in there who's more complete, more ready to go. Michael Pittman to the Ravens at 28.
Absolutely. Pittman, as I've said before, plays the way that I want Miles Boykin to play, with physicality in his routes and just throttling down more frequently and using his frame and all that good stuff. The Ravens, if they do get Pittman, would be able to do some awesome things in some 21, 22 personnel with Boykin and Pittman, because they're both awesome blockers, incredible blockers, very similar with their length and strength in the blocking game. They both kind of can do some things deep as well. I think both of them are deceptively good deep threats, despite not being, blazers and not being the smaller guys. So that'd be awesome. But I don't think that the Ravens are going to necessarily trade up for Murray or for Queen more than maybe to 25 to 26 to 24, something like that. But I think if Murray's on the board there, I think they value the character, they love the character, all that good stuff, and they're going to end up taking him if he's there. I didn't mean for him to fall as far. I don't think Kenneth Murray is available. I don't think Patrick Queen is available when the Ravens pick.
It's coming out league reports that teams absolutely love Murray's character, which I can definitely see.
And it's been 2 months of it now. It's been one of the not main narratives, but every time you hear,
what is he, like a Texas kid? Like he's just all football, like all the time. Tremendous athlete, just an absolute, beast. So if he's the pick, I'm not, like I've said all along, if he's the pick, I'm going to be happy with it because I feel like they're going to know what to do with him.
Right.
Might be a little rocky to start. It's not going to be like CJ Mosley just stepping in, being, a rock from day one. But ultimately, I'd be confident in this coaching staff more than a lot of other places that they could develop him.
Absolutely. And with Murray, thinking about the coverage, and that's something I've gone to in depth in his lack of coverage responsibility. The Ravens don't ask their linebackers to cover a ton, especially on third down. They blitz them. They have them, play kind of a similar role to what Murray did. So maybe a guy like Brooks makes sense, who did a lot of similar stuff in a similar conference. I don't love taking defensive players in the Big 12 necessarily. I don't love linebackers in the Big 12 necessarily, but Murray just has that. It's just that gut feeling that you get that his attitude, that he is special, that he has a special attitude, a special work ethic, is a special character. So I think the Ravens would be jumping for joy if they could just sit tight and take him. I think on my phone I saw that the Athletics, Zrebeck just said the Ravens trade up from 28 to 25 in their beat writer mock draft, something like that. I could see that absolutely happening. Murray can come in year one and be explosive, run sideline to sideline, be a big hitter, and like you said, coach him up. The one thing that concerns me with that is, Patrick Owasso and Kenny Young, same things. Coach them up. They'll be ready to go, and then they just freaking weren't.
Yeah, but you're talking about a 4th-round pick and an undrafted guy. Murray has pedigree.
Not much. Patrick Owasso is not a natural linebacker, but Kenny Young is like the 7th all-time tackler at UCLA. Had like over 300 career tackles. But
that's UCLA. And then was Murray recruited? Was he Stoops originally, or was he all Lincoln Riley? Either way, I'm confident that a guy who's able to secure a recruit like that from one of those two guys versus whatever they've got going on at UCLA, like Jed Fish or whatever.
There's no Oklahoma linebackers in the NFL.
I'm sorry?
There's no Oklahoma linebackers in the NFL.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, I mean, the Eric Stryker thing, for example, like maybe that scares people off. But for me, I am confident in that pedigree to a certain extent.
It would be exciting if they get Murray. I'm excited. I'm excited for what they can do with him.
It's an uncertainty. It's like when they drafted Lamar, it was no certain thing.
Exactly, right. Exciting. And the Ravens, more so than anyone, as we discussed, time and time again, they don't put the round peg in the circle hole, however way you want to spin it. In year one, you can have Murray in a more simplified role and ready for him to take over year 2, year 3. You have a guy who can take the green dot and do things. Eric DeCosta called him cerebral. Joe Horowitz spoke very highly of him. I think they would be really happy if Murray's on the board at 28. Whatever, screw it. The Ravens love middle linebackers. He is the one on Instagram. It's the love for Kenneth Murray in the Ravens fan base already is insane. So hope they all get that. It would make great content, great news, give a lot of content over the next couple months. Hope that's the pick. If he's there, I think they'll take him over guys like AJ Epinesa, guys like Brandon Ayuk, Yetur Gross-Matos, who are other guys on the board that I was looking at there. But yeah, moving on to the Tennessee Titans, who knocked the Ravens out of the playoffs. Let's give him a cornerback. Let's give him Jeff Gladney. I think that, edge is another area they can look, but they are looking to keep going, keep pushing forward, keep that secondary really strong. Dean Pease back again, I believe. Gladney, guy that I've spoken about many times. Oh, he did retire.
I think so, yeah.
Well, regardless, Vrabel and the system they have in place there, let's give them a scrappy corner. They've got a Dory Jackson. Logan Ryan's gone?
I think so. I think he just left this year.
I believe so. But yeah, that's my pick. Go ahead.
Let me pull my thing up here. Who was I?
Still on the market. Logan Ryan is still on the market. He's not signed.
So he was a free agent. Looking at this crop, I'm going to go ahead and help them out at offensive tackle. You just lost Conklin. I'm going to go Austin Jackson out of USC. Again, kind of another project type of guy, but I'm confident in their ability to develop O-linemen. They've done a good job with it. They have guys like Luan and some other dudes there that are still pretty darn good. And so I'm going to go ahead and get them the piece they need to remain complete and go ahead and take Austin Jackson out of USC.
That is a very strong pick. I've talked about Austin Jackson had an interesting situation with the bone marrow transplant that he gave for his sister. He said he couldn't even do a weighted squat until October.
That's a Vrabel guy right there.
Boom. Exactly. Vrabel would cut his own dick off for a Super Bowl ring, literally. So, yeah, that is a Vrabel guy. I love the pick there. Very smart pick. Now, moving on, we are in the final couple picks of the first round. My phone froze, so you go ahead.
Okay, so we have the Green Bay Packers at number 30 overall. They do need a linebacker. They've had guys kind of shuffling in and out there. I do have Kenneth Murray still available, so I'm just going to go ahead and take him for the Packers. It feels like a Packers pick, guy who's going to be athletic at the linebacker position, step in and be a leader for you. And it feels like they are a little identity less on the front seven. They have good players back in the secondary, but they do need some guys up there. And Kenneth Murray, like we've mentioned, for all those reasons, think he could be a special player, and he could go into Green Bay and be a star for them.
That's an incredible fit. If that were the situation, that would be a slam dunk pick for what they need there. I'm going to go ahead and add Brandon Ayuk who can do some things and complement. He'll have a lot of heat taken off of him from Devontae Adams being there. Ayuk brings return ability. He brings explosiveness after the catch. Really, really dips low. Crazy low. Great ankle flexion. Dips low out of his breaks. Really can sell routes at the top of his stem. Good hands, good length, and a tough player. He hasn't faced a lot of press, but I think that LaFleur can move him around. They do a lot of interesting bootleg concepts and long developing plays with Aaron Rodgers, him being able to navigate things where Ayuk can hit some real home runs. They run a lot of screens. Ayuk thrives on screens. So I really like that fit there.
Awesome. Brandon Ayuk to the Packers, moving up to 31, 49ers.
This is a tough one. What do the 49ers need? They need secondary help. Let's go ahead and put Antoine Winfield Jr., a guy who dominated at the same time that John Lynch was in the NFL, the 49ers general manager. Antoine Winfield Jr. is a riser through this draft process, very instinctive, big hitter, has range, has a see ball, get ball mentality, can run and chase and do some things as a slot cornerback a little bit. I think that he would go in there and be able to provide some help over top. They have Jimmy Ward still. They're apparently looking to deal Jaquiski Tart. They also need a cornerback as well. So maybe a guy like Jalen Johnson's a fit there in that cover 3 scheme. Christian Fulton as well. But I'm going to give them a safety. It feels like they could use one.
I'm going to go ahead and do that wide receiver thing. So I had already picked Wirfs for them to slide in at guard. That's going to really help their offense even get revved up to another level. And then I'm going to go ahead and do it again, picking Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State for a lot of the reasons you mentioned with the Packers. He's going to be able to get open on some of those Shanahan routes where there's going to be levels. There's going to be guys all around him like Debo and whoever else that are going to be drawing attention away. He's going to have a lot of space to move in this offense. He's going to catch a lot of balls, and he's going to be very productive.
Boom. Great explanation. Moving on to the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, with the final pick. There's some interesting guys on the board. Yetur Gross-Matos, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift. There's a couple offensive linemen for me as well. I'm going to go ahead and give them A.J. Epinesa, one of my very favorite players in this draft. He has done so much during his time at Iowa, being a pass rush specialist as he came in and then turning into a guy that they really relied on to man that inside shade against the left tackle at that 5-tech position. And I believe that the rich get richer. Chris Jones there, a couple other major factors on their front with Frank Clark, who was hurt this past year, but continue to improve that pass rush, help them protect leads. And I hate the Chiefs because at every single mock draft I see, they end up getting a perfect fit or an awesome fit. They have so much talent. They're so young, and they're going to be awesome again next year.
Yeah, you got to need a cornerback, and I still have Christian Fulton out there, so I'm going to go ahead and pick him, a guy who can play on the boundaries, make a lot of plays, and like you said, help protect leads in that AFC West. You just got Jerry Jeudy joining up with Cortland Sutton. CeeDee Lamb is going to be playing in that division now as well. So just a lot of firepower that you're going to have to defend against. And getting into some of these shootouts, I think Fulton has the right mentality where he's going to walk into that cornerback room and want to be the guy. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Christian Fulton to close out the first round and close out our last mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Boom. We have finished our what we think is going to happen. So that means out of these 32 picks, I will be happy if I get 4 of them right. That would be my over-under is 3.5 for myself. So we'll see. We didn't do any trades. It's impossible to predict trades anyway, for the most part. There's definitely teams that we can get a feel for where they might want to acquire more capital. We mentioned the 49ers, some other teams like that, but some high caliber players going in the first round. We have Cesar Ruiz going pretty early, both of us. The receivers kind of didn't fly off the board, but then started to consistently go every other pick. Feels like, the star defensive players mixed with the quarterbacks, mixed with the offensive linemen really took over in the beginning of the first round. So we will see what happens tomorrow. You have the Ravens taking Michael Pittman Jr., a player that we both love. I have a very polarizing player, Kenneth Murray, coming off of the board. I think the Ravens fans will be ecstatic with either of those guys. So we shall see what happens tomorrow.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one. I like trying to look and play detective on trends that we've seen teams do in the first round and teams that draft well and don't, and what they love and things like that. So we shall see, and I'm quite interested to see how it pans out. This draft I'm not very confident in of much other than maybe the first 2 picks. So it's always exciting when the top of the draft is murky and maybe a lot of trades. Trades are always the most fun. And we'll see this. I mean, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow they're saying that they're not going to have a time limit basically on picks because they want to make sure that if there's a trade in the works that it can, it doesn't run out of time, which is really smart by the NFL. But
they should all have hard lines. Like they should have that.
They definitely do. I mean, they just also have each other's cell phone numbers, so it's not the end of the world. I'm sure they have 4 different ways of communicating, but definitely can get. I think they just want to get input from other guys, and that's what could take a little longer if they want to go talk to a regional scout or talk to something about trading up for someone and need a little second fiddle resourcing where we've discussed maybe the guys who are executive guys, guys that delegate more so than the scouting guys like DaCosta versus I don't know. A freaking Bill O'Brien. I don't know what the hell he's going to do. Good Lord. But those guys will beat
Bill O'Brien. Like, is he going to have to pick up different phones to call himself to consult for different opinions?
This is Bill. This is William. How you doing? But yeah, so I think that it'll be interesting to see. I can't wait for the stories that come out of this draft with the technical difficulties and the things that almost happened, and I think there's going to be a lot of those. But when there's this much uncertainty and how long it's going to take, this draft could end up going until 1:30 in the morning tomorrow, just the first round. Because if there's not time limit, these front offices are going to want to take their sweet old time picking, make sure that they don't make a mistake. So not surprised if we end up seeing the coverage go until 12:30, 1 a.m.
Hopefully it doesn't. We're going to be doing some live streaming. We haven't totally settled on a time. I was thinking maybe sometime after the top 10 starts going. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we'll get in the mix there. We're not going to go the whole time, so we can enjoy the first little bit, and definitely want to have reactions. And we're going to have podcast mini episodes basically coming for every pick the Ravens make, regardless of if they trade or do anything, so we can try and react. And just because it feels fun as everyone's cooped up and not able to go to have little get-togethers with their buddies as much and watch the draft. So we'll try and
do what you got to do. Don and Mass, go out, grab some beers. We'll be doing some drinking games, hopefully, doing some stuff. I might also be hopping on with Chris Aguilera and the Deep Cover guys, who are an awesome group. They're going to be putting on, I think, their 3rd annual live stream. I was just talking to Chris while we were recording this about maybe jumping on. Maybe we can get you in the mix on that as well. I think that would be a lot of fun if we were both able to do so. But yeah, it's just going to be a ton of fun. First big event other than pretty much The Last Dance, where everyone is going to be all watching the TV at the same time for a couple of months. So
numbers are going to be ridiculous for this draft. Absolutely.
Now coming across the wire here from my sports update, Alabama's Jedrick Wills, Georgia's Andrew Thomas, and Iowa's Tristan Wirfs are all expected to go in the top 10 per @PShrags. Louisville OT Mekhi Becton is expected to be the 4th OT to come off the board. I kind of believe that because it doesn't feel like a smokescreeny thing. It feels like something that is legit coming across, and I like Schrags. So
right, I think Becton has gotten just that size, mobility at the combine a little bit. He's just blown up as like an athlete a little bit, but is more raw than those other guys. And at one point, it was like Mekhi Becton going top 5. Don't quite see that happening when of those guys, the only one who's played left tackle is Andrew Thomas. So for me, he's left tackle 1, has been, and I think he will be tomorrow night. So we'll see. I think, 3 of them will go top 10. Make a lot of sense. And then that starts pushing some premium positions the Ravens need down the board. So we'll see. Interesting draft ahead.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a ton of fun. Anything else you want to throw in there? Oh, Tiger Phil, almost confirmed, I think. Ravel is reporting it's definitely going to happen.
That's been in the works for a while. Makes sense. Plus, UFC is supposed to go hold events in Florida in May
9th. So you got that May 9th. The golf is May 15th, May 24th, that sort of window. I believe it's now confirmed that it's Tiger and Tom and Peyton and Phil.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Going to be a lot of fun. I would love to see that. And I can't wait for the trash talk that ensues.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be great. Sports hopefully finally kicking back into gear. We don't want to totally rush it, got to play it safe, do everything correctly. But with this starting things off, hopefully they can get a little bit of momentum going to rolling sports back out first with UFC, then with the golf, then maybe some real golf and some other real sports starting back up in June. I mean, that's just that's what I'm hoping. I need sports.
Right. OT. I mean, I know one thing we did miss. Sean Payton apparently had a 80+ person Zoom meeting and said that OTAs got the kibosh. They're only reporting to training camp. They're not going to have any sort of OTA program. So interesting times. That's why bringing guys back this free agency cycle made a lot of sense because they already know the program, know the system, and they're not going to get a ton of time to physically familiarize themselves in new schemes. So Ravens brought in Wolf and Campbell, 2 veterans. I'm sure will be able to pick it up fine, but difficult on the rookies. Rookies are going to have some delayed learning, so maybe their impact won't be as great this year.
Yep, definitely. Should we get out of here?
Let's get out of here. We got a long weekend ahead of us, and we already crushed out an hour and a half.
Cool. So really appreciate you guys listening. Really appreciate you tuning in for our first ever live stream. A little bit of a tune up for tomorrow night. I think it turned out very well. So yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys doing so. You can find the show on social media. You can follow us on Twitter. Show account is at Podcast Beatdown. I'm at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. Spencer is at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle there. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Check out the show on Instagram at Baltimore_Beatdown, where we post our mailbags and stuff, and just get involved. It's draft season, baby.
Yeah, let's get it going. Interact with us, tweet at us, Instagram, DM us, whatever it is. We'll be shouting out good questions, anything. We'll just try and have a continuous mailbag running. Let's say that. Interesting ones we'll throw in when we have nothing else to talk about while we're streaming or recording or whatever it is.
We're just going to be aggressively interactive.
Yes. So
you're going to be sick of us by the time all this is over.
Yes, and then we'll be sick of ourselves as well. But hopefully we all stay healthy and not actually sick from our safe social distancing and all that good stuff.
All right, guys. Enjoy sleep tonight. Last one before the draft.
Christmas Eve, baby, for grown men. See ya.
Peace out. Peace out.